The road stretches on forever, dark, empty, quiet. Hitchhiking is supposed to be about trust, a stranger helping a stranger get home. But sometimes, you pick up more than a passenger. Welcome back to Mr. DreadStory. Tonight, we re-diving into 3 creepy, true hitchhiking horror stories, real accounts from people whose simple decision to stop their car turned into a nightmare they never forgot. Buckle up, lock your doors, and let's begin. The first story comes from a truck driver in Arizona. He had been driving long-haul routes for nearly 20 years and had picked up hitchhikers before without incident. It was late at night, somewhere between 2 small desert towns, when he saw a man standing on the side of the highway. The man was thin, pale, and dressed in dark clothes. No backpack, no visible belongings. Against his better judgment, the driver slowed down and let him in. At first, the hitchhiker didn't speak. He just sat there, staring straight ahead. His hands rested neatly on his knees, fingers perfectly still. After several miles, the driver tried to make conversation. "Where are you headed?" The hitchhiker turned slowly and said a single word. "Home." His voice was flat, emotionless. As they drove, the driver noticed something unsettling. The hitchhiker's reflection didn't always line up with his movements in the side mirror. Sometimes it lagged. Sometimes it seemed to move on its own. The temperature inside the cab dropped. The driver's breath became visible. Suddenly, the hitchhiker said, "You shouldn't have stopped." The truck began to sputter. The dashboard lights flickered wildly. Panicking, the driver slammed the brakes and jumped out of the truck. When he turned back, the passenger seat was empty. The door was still locked from the inside. The truck started right back up afterward. The driver never picked up another hitchhiker again, and to this day, he refuses to drive that stretch of road after dark. The second story comes from a college student in Oregon. She had missed the last bus home after studying late on campus. The town was small, and she'd hitchhiked before without problems. A car pulled over almost immediately. The driver was an older woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. She told the student she was headed the same way and offered her a ride. Relieved, the student got in. As they drove, the woman asked strange questions. "Do you live alone? Does anyone wait up for you? Would anyone notice if you didn't come home?" Uncomfortable, the student lied and said her roommates were expecting her. The woman nodded, smiling wider. As they approached the student's street, the driver missed the turn. "Oh," she said casually, "that's not where we're going." Fear surged through the student. She reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't open. The driver laughed softly. "I almost had you," she said. Suddenly, headlights appeared behind them. A car honked loudly. The driver cursed, slowed down, and the door unlocked. The student jumped out and ran without looking back. Later, police told her something chilling. A woman matching that description had been arrested weeks earlier for attempting to lure young hitchhikers. Several others were still missing. The student still takes the long way home rather than risk another ride. The third and final story is the most disturbing of all. It comes from a man who was hitchhiking across the Midwest in the early 2000s. After hours without a ride, a van finally pulled over. Inside were 2 men who seemed friendly enough. They joked, laughed, and offered him water. As the van drove farther from the highway, the conversation shifted. The men began whispering to each other, glancing back at him through the rearview mirror. The hitchhiker felt something was wrong. He noticed the doors didn't have handles on the inside. Trying to stay calm, He asked where they were going. One of the men turned around and smiled. "Somewhere quiet," he said. That's when the hitchhiker made a desperate move. As the van slowed for a stop sign, he kicked the door and threw himself onto the road. He rolled into a ditch, badly bruised, but alive. The van sped off without stopping. Police later told him that the van matched the description of a vehicle connected to multiple disappearances along that route. No one ever identified the men. The hitchhiker survived, but he says the worst part wasn't the escape. It was the realization that if the van hadn't slowed, no one would have ever known what happened to him. Hitchhiking relies on trust, on the belief that most people are good. But these true stories remind us of something terrifying. Not every stranger wants to help, and not every road leads somewhere safe. Sometimes the scariest thing on the highway is the car that stops. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.